The Nutcracker. It was Christmas Eve, and snow covered the little town like a soft, white blanket. Inside a cozy house, Clara and her family were getting ready for their Christmas party. The warm room smelled like cookies and pine, and the Christmas tree sparkled with lights and ornaments. Clara was a young girl with big, curious eyes. She couldn't wait for the party to begin. "I wonder what gifts we'll get this year," she said to her brother Fritz. Fritz, who was a little older, grinned. "I'll probably get the best presents, like always," he teased. The sound of the door opening made them stop. It was their godfather, Drosselmeyer. He was tall, with silver hair and a long coat, and he always brought something special. "Happy Christmas, Clara and Fritz," he said with a smile, holding a big bag of gifts. He pulled out wonderful toys. There was a ballerina that spun, a castle that lit up, and a marching soldier. Clara clapped her hands in delight. But Drosselmeyer saved the best for last. He took out a wooden nutcracker. It was shaped like a little soldier with a painted uniform and a kind face. "This is for you, Clara," Drosselmeyer said. Clara's eyes lit up. "Thank you, Godfather. He's wonderful." Fritz frowned. "It's just a toy," he said, grabbing it from Clara's hands. "Be careful, Fritz," Clara cried. Fritz laughed and tried to crack a big nut with the nutcracker. But snap, the nutcracker's jaw broke. "Oh no," Clara said, her eyes filling with tears. "Don't worry," said Drosselmeyer, gently taking the toy. "I can fix him." With a bit of ribbon, he made the nutcracker as good as new. "Thank you," Clara whispered, holding the nutcracker close. A strange night. That night, Clara placed the nutcracker under the Christmas tree. "Good night, brave soldier," she said softly and went to bed. At midnight, Clara woke up. The house was very quiet, but she heard a strange rustling noise. Curious, she tiptoed to the parlor. What she saw made her gasp. The Christmas tree had grown huge, so big it touched the ceiling. The room felt magical and strange. Suddenly, Clara noticed movement. Little mice were running across the floor, but they weren't ordinary mice. They were the size of Clara. Then a Mouse King appeared. He was larger than the other mice and wore 7 crowns stacked on his head. He held a sword and looked at Clara with a wicked smile. "Surrender, girl," the Mouse King squeaked. "This room belongs to me." Clara froze. She didn't know what to do. Suddenly, her nutcracker came to life. He jumped up, sword in hand, and shouted, "Don't be afraid, Clara. I'll protect you." Clara watched in amazement as toy soldiers from under the tree also came to life. They lined up behind the nutcracker, ready to fight. The Mouse King laughed. "Attack, my mice!" The battle began. Toy soldiers clashed with the mice, and the nutcracker fought the Mouse King. But the nutcracker was struggling. The Mouse King was quick and strong. "Clara," the nutcracker called, "I need your help." Clara looked around and saw her slipper. Without thinking, she picked it up and threw it at the Mouse King. It hit him right on the head. The Mouse King stumbled, and the nutcracker took his chance. With one final swing of his sword, he defeated the Mouse King. The mice squeaked in fear and ran away. "You did it," Clara said, running to the nutcracker. "No," the nutcracker said with a kind smile. "We did it. You were very brave, Clara." A magical journey. As the room filled with golden light, something amazing happened. The nutcracker began to change. His wooden arms and legs turned real, and he became a handsome prince. "Clara," he said, bowing, "you broke the spell that trapped me." "Thank you. Now, I want to take you to my kingdom." Clara was amazed. "Really? I would love to see it." The prince held out his hand, and when Clara took it, the room disappeared. They found themselves in a beautiful snowy forest. The air was cool and fresh, and snowflakes sparkled like tiny stars. Clara looked around in wonder. "This is the land of snow," the prince said. Clara smiled as snowflakes twirled in the air like dancers. Everything was quiet and magical. Then they traveled to another place, the land of sweets. Clara's eyes grew wide. There were candy canes as tall as trees, rivers of chocolate, and fields of bright gumdrops. The air smelled like sugar. "Welcome," said the sugar plum fairy, who wore a dress that sparkled like sugar. "We've been waiting for you." The prince told her about Clara's bravery. The sugar plum fairy clapped her hands. "Let's celebrate." Dancers from all over the kingdom performed for Clara. There were Spanish chocolate dancers, Arabian coffee dancers, and Russian candy cane dancers. Each one was more beautiful than the last. The final dance was by the sugar plum fairy herself. She moved so gracefully that it seemed like she was floating. Clara thought it was the most wonderful thing she had ever seen. Goodbye. When the celebration ended, the prince turned to Clara. "It's time to go back home," he said. Clara felt a little sad, but nodded. "Thank you for showing me your kingdom. I'll never forget it." The prince smiled. "And I'll never forget you, Clara." In the blink of an eye, Clara was back in her house. The Nutcracker sat under the Christmas tree, just as before. But Clara knew the adventure had been real. She hugged the Nutcracker and whispered, "Good night, my brave soldier." The Nutcracker teaches us about bravery, kindness, and believing in magic. Clara learned that courage doesn't mean you aren't afraid. It means you do the right thing, even when you are. As Clara drifted back to sleep, she smiled. Christmas would always feel a little more magical from now on.